You wanted to.
Danger. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Self-Perfected.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Ah,
Mitch,
hey,
there has been ridiculous feedback on that last podcast in the short amount of time that it's been released for round two.
No better way to end the year.
My God.
2022, the year of the nanoparticles.
Yeah, with Papa and Uncle.
Yeah. See, if you really investigate Chinese history, you know how they have Chinese astrology. It's like the year of the cock, the year of the rat, right? If you can actually read and you look into it, this is the year of the nanoparticle because they've been scheming for the past 8 decades.
And when did you watch that last James Bond movie?
2 days ago.
Oh snap! And what's that movie? What's in that movie?
Shout out James Bond, No Time to Die. Okay, overall movie.
Shout out Daniel Craig.
I am a professional. Apparently, it's his last one. I'm not going to give away the spoiler alert because I don't like when people do that. But overall, pretty good cinematography. You know, I like to watch this film so I can see kind of what Hollywood's feeding everyone.
This whole podcast is just a movie review podcast.
Yes. Shocking.
Mitchell's deep down is a cinematographer.
Yes, shocking amount of alcohol consumption, like blatant, like whoever's running that studio, which is China, right? Because they own basically all of Hollywood. They're just like giving this alcohol so much glorification, which is so stupid, right?
And by the way, when they shoot the actual movies, they're not actually drinking alcohol. It's this colored liquid that has the viscosity or the liquidity of alcohol.
What does it taste like? Does it taste like water?
Yeah, it tastes like nothing. Exactly, it tastes like water.
Or
they're just
maybe it's full of like adrenochrome or something. I don't know.
They're just faking it.
So in the movie, they have these nanoparticles that can transfer from person to person, and they can target it based on people's DNA. So if they have your DNA, they know what your weaknesses are, and then they can wipe out individuals or certain types of people or whole populations just by being in their presence and exchanging skin contact. So thank goodness we've already started pre-programming people with 6 feet apart. Otherwise can't hug anyone in the future.
Yeah.
Wow. Good nanoparticles. So anyway, that was interesting.
So James Bond in this context is fighting off the bad guy who has that weapon, right?
But in real life, Anthony Fauci is my hero, and I'm very proud of him.
He just called for vaccination requirements on domestic travel.
Really?
Domestic flights.
Yeah. Really? Of course he did.
I think he already went for it earlier. But basically,
you have to start pushing it early.
For those of you who are not about the nanoparticles, that makes you James Bond. Man, woman, white, black, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's about the symbolism.
Yeah. Just don't go get drunk because that's not going to do anything for you except keep you stuck. Man, alcohol is so nasty. Like, I've been reading some of those blogs from Bernard. He puts it in such a good way of how it's like the ultimate escape. Even a little bit, right? Because then it's like, why do you even want the little bit? Oh, because it feels good. Or it's
Give
nice
me that warm, fuzzy feeling. Because think about it, right? Everybody goes to, like, they try to change their environment to escape, right? Like they have their man cave or they go here or XYZ. But it's like, imagine you can change from the inside. You can escape from inside out. That's what alcohol and weed is. Right?
Yeah.
We were just talking
you don't
about
have to face yourself fully.
Yeah, exactly. For weed, for those of you who still smoke weed, that's guaranteed to keep you fucked, my friends. Even if you're doing it like once a month. Yeah. Even if you're drinking alcohol once
a year. Even if you give that acceptance, like, well, it's just one time every summer, just hanging out with the boys, we're far away, harmless, right? It's like, no,
Just means you're
because
weak.
you're
That's all.
time looping a whole year. Right?
Right.
It's crazy.
Exactly. It just means you're weak.
Yeah.
And the point there is when you're high, you'll have all these awesome ideas. This is just a practicality of it,
Mhm.
about how it encrypts you into your mind so that you never get out. You have all these awesome ideas and you get the feeling equal to if you were to do it.
Right. Like actually do something successful.
And the
that what
point
you mean?
is, exactly. But you get the feeling when you're high of like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so if you're just doing things based off feelings, which is the reason you would be smoking weed in the first place, you're going to get the internal quote unquote gratification that you're supposed to get from actually doing something. Therefore, you'll never do it because you're getting it from just smoking weed. If you're just doing things for a feeling. Now, in reality, the difference between the feeling you get when you smoke weed and come up with a grandiose idea versus actually doing it is, it's not even comparable, right? But that's the reason why smoking weed, it just keeps you encrypted, that where you never do anything. You're just locked into your mind and you're like, oh my God, it would be so, oh my God, just imagine if
I could
blah,
be
blah,
like
blah, blah,
Elon
blah, blah.
Musk. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I saw Elon Musk smoke on Joe Rogan, therefore I can smoke too.
Therefore, if I smoke like Elon Musk, my
I'm
God,
about to be high as Elon Musk.
yeah, I'm gonna
And
wear
my
Elon Musk
income
shit
levels.
too. And
Right.
once I wear Elon Musk shirt, then I'm gonna be successful like him.
Yeah. And this
Not how.
episode, my friends, is brought to you by DARE, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. Asif's from Canada. He probably doesn't know what that is. But for all my American friends, remember back in like 4th grade, right? They came in.
The
Did you have
first
that?
part of the podcast when, yeah, did you say, can you hear me?
You had DARE?
What'd you say?
You had DARE programs?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I don't know. But
You probably had like
the first part of the
Canada
podcast so
Abuse
far,
Resistance Education.
the first part of the podcast was brought to you by MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or Drinking and Driving,
Yes.
because James Bond, etc.
Because
We've
we
got that
also
right.
do the podcast for the money and for the sponsorships. So
Yeah, but we donate 100% of it to organizations that can't affect any change.
yeah,
So
basically
it's
every
important.
single charity ever. So
If you
that
notice,
being
well, rich people, you pulled it up. Like Grant Cardone, he has this whole conglomerate of like sales business and real estate business and this business and that business. He has like 10 businesses, right? Of like, you can be a franchisee, you can, be part of Cardone University and this XYZ. And he also has a foundation. And what I realized, the effect of that is like, oh, what's all this for? Like, what is he doing all this money for? Oh, he's putting it towards a good cause. He has a foundation. It solves this point inside of the consumer, the person who's watching, who wants to get sold, basically. It solves that point so that you're like, okay, tell me whatever, sell me whatever.
Mhm.
Because the subconscious point is like, oh, like he has a charity.
Mhm.
It's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're telling me right before you started recording, you're telling me about this book that you just got. And I was like, stop. I want the people to know, Mitch.
Oh
Like,
my
you're ready.
gosh. Okay.
This is
So-
a sneak peek, once in a lifetime opportunity for you to be a fly on the wall into Mitch's massive, fucking huge brain.
How is it?
channeling it.
Is that true that if you have a smaller brain, it's actually better? Or is it like someone fuck it. Someone fact check it. Whatever. Okay. This book is called Buzzwords. Buzzwords. I found it at
And
this.
it's not like when you get drunk, you get a buzz on and then you start speaking. It's not that, because we're against that.
Yeah.
Don't
Obvious.
do it.
Right. And
I don't know. Sometimes you look wasted. Sometimes you sound wasted when you talk.
what can I
But
say?
not now. You're
I'm
good.
one of a kind.
You're sharp as fuck right now, dude.
Dead fucking sober. So I was at this bookstore, right? I was just like, I had to kill some time because I had this techno tutor meeting. It was in this like smaller town, and had like 30 minutes to go. So I go in this bookstore, and I just go all out, right?
And he starts seeing time, and he's just like, pop, pop, kill that time. Pop, just start murdering that time, James Bond style, right?
Yeah,
you,
dude.
you ever watch a movie and then you think you're the main character?
That was
Like,
my
when you
entire
younger?
childhood.
Yeah, like
Up
I watched
until 2
Spider-Man and I
years
just be
ago.
like, Spider-Man, like shoot some fucking weapons shit. So you were James Bond. You thought you were killing time, like legitimately. You thought you were like,
No, I was like in Inception, bro, and I was like going through time, slowing down time because I
oh,
loved this book so much. So this book is called Buzzwords. You know, I'm literally 4 pages in. I just wanted to tell this to Asif because it was hilarious. But he's talking about how you can. So there's a word. I don't know if you know this, but it's called wordsmith or wordsmithing. It's where you create words, which is brilliant. Like team life or self-perfected. Those are made up, right? So in a sense, it's like a buzzword, but a buzzword. I literally don't even know the definition of a buzzword. I was just excited to tell you this because the guy's already like dropping new words that I never heard before, and I was like, this is perfect because then we can use this when we're communicating concepts that don't already exist in the standard English vocabulary,
yes,
right? So
yes.
I just got the book and it was cool, but he calls it he says this book is about the BVZs of communication. B is for buzzwords, V is for verbo juice, and Z is for zip vocab. I'm like, what the
Shit,
fuck
dude.
is zip vocab? But you already have an idea of what he means by zip
Yes.
vocab.
Well, dude, hold on. Like, go back. What was the second one?
Verbo juice. I do not know what that one means.
But it's like I'm
V E
assuming
R
it's like
V E R
verbal.
B O O. So verbo and then juice. JUICE.
Like I have an idea when you first said it of like verbal, like you're speaking.
Yeah, that verbal
Juice,
juice.
like
Give me
you're
that.
just
Give
saying,
me. You know how to ask him. So I was like, I'm going to Juice Town, right? He's like, say some other.
yeah,
stuff.
bring in the juice, baby. See, like
Yeah,
don't like you just inherently
verbo
know what
juice.
that means, right?
Yeah, but it's weird
I'm like,
because there's two O's, so I don't
yeah, that's
understand.
weird. That's weird.
Yeah,
But for example, when I say give me the juice, Mitch, so
yeah. I'm
people
like,
know
yo,
it,
you want the
you know,
verbo juice, the other juice,
because you know,
the nano juice.
people, human beings, on average, say something like 7 metaphors per minute. So the example of being
Really?
like, "Oh, that's a juicy statement." It's like, what does that mean? It's a metaphor. We don't
Yeah.
realize it, but all these adjectives are metaphors, right? It's as if
Wow.
we're squeezing juice out of your words. So people
Okay.
inherently know what that means.
Okay. So now here's a question about the fundamental mechanics of reality. So you know how the metaverse is like virtual, right? So it's not actually real. It's like a artificial copy of it's built from something real, right? It's like the servers and all
It's
that.
stored somewhere real. Yeah.
Right. But then it's this virtual world. So now let's say we are making up words, right? Such as like team life or self-perfected or verbo juice
Well,
or
team life isn't a made up word. It's two
well,
words.
it's two
But
words
but
put
if you
together.
but you mean like kind of like the
Yeah. Like at what point does that actually become something real? Right? Because in the beginning was the word, and the word was God, and the word was with God, blah, blah, blah.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. Maybe that's what God was saying to you. He's like, blah, blah, blah. And that's when he created that's when he created tap water. He's like, blah. So what happens then? If we're making up these words, it's like my initial sense is that you because I can make up words all day long, right? Could just say a bunch of random shit. But obviously that's gonna have no effect in reality, or people are just gonna see and be like, that's you sound crazy. I don't want to be part of that.
Verbo
Some people might
juice.
like it. But
Yeah.
at some point though, you can say something and it sinks in. It's almost like the person accepts it and then allows it, and then it kind of becomes this collective agreement. Like right now, you're
Yep.
fathoming everything I'm saying and vice versa, as well as the listeners. They're like comprehending more or less what we're
Yeah.
saying because we have that agreement like within us of understanding.
Mhm.
So then when you're creating new words, right? Like that's and there's like some sort of like it needs to get accepted into the collective vocabulary in a sense. But then plot twist, what for then the people who have techno tutor to actually physically integrate the word, right? If you're over 7, over 5, basically, because then you can get it in. So it's automatic. But someone who doesn't have that is literally going to be slowed down even at a microsecond level. They're going to have to think about it instead of just know the word, like automatic, like you know your own name. So
Right.
isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. And the new vocabulary that's coming out, if you're just reacting to it, you're kind of fucked, because that's actually what's happening with coronavirus. Because they're giving you a new vocabulary
Yeah.
by saying Omicron is the
Yeah.
new variant.
Social
And then you're like,
distancing,
whoa, what's
even that.
right? Exactly, right. And it's like Omicron is new variant, and then you now have a new file folder inside of you because they've imprinted you energetically. What does that mean? It means they used emotion and fear to put a word inside of you. You as a human being is like, oh, this has to do with my survival. Like I need to download this information. And
Mm.
what information are you downloading? The file folder of Omicron. And then you open that file folder and it says highly infectious, highly contagious. Close the folder. So now every time they say Omicron, you say, oh, fuck, that shit sounds scary as hell, subconsciously, unconsciously. So it's activating in you every time. This is why throughout newspapers and news articles and all that stuff, they always say, you know, crisis, war, right? Crumbling, like disaster strike. Like it's all these really emotionally charged words because of the way they were stored inside of us. When you're creating new vocabulary, it's so much easier to control exactly what's going on. Now, the interesting thing is you can do that with words that already exist, right? And a great example of that is, for example, the word ego. It's like we have this idea about what ego means, but when you define it as, for example, self-interest only, you're looking out for your own interest only. It's like it gives you a layer of ego that you can now live and use and pay attention to and differentiate when you're participating in self-interest only or ego and when you're not. That's what the point of destiny is. The point of destiny is to give you the layer of vocabulary on the words that you probably already know or heard of, or like with the word life, for example. It's giving new context to the word life, new context to the word good, bad, right, wrong, all that different stuff, where it's giving you the layer of information that you can put into your words. And if you live them, if you can physically integrate them, it will support you to live the best life. It will support you to change. That's the importance of destiny and the DIP light process. Right.
Even destiny, the spelling, right? But it means something. You know?
Yeah.
It's like it's spelled that way because it's dealing with the I of self, going from the I of ego through the eye of the needle to the I as life.
No,
right? And then
here's the
rewrite the
fascinating
destiny.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's like I never say the word destiny as in like your fate or whatever. It's like very, very rare. But how often do you hear us say destiny? Right? Very often.
Yeah.
And so the fascinating point is if you're creating new vocabulary and putting that into people with fear and emotion, it's very easy to control people because we have the starting point, the average individual, we have the starting point of we're stupid and the authority is smart. So if the authority says, here's new vocabulary, you need to know this, right? Then we're like, oh, yeah, for sure. And we just download it because no one's being specific in how they're understanding vocabulary. No one understands like what a virus actually is, that your antibodies are natural vaccines. If you go by the definition of a vaccine, your immune system creates vaccines naturally. But you wouldn't understand that if you don't have the right vocabulary.
You don't have the vaccine.
Yeah, exactly. You can't understand it if you don't have the vaccine. And so once you have the vaccine, it all makes sense. So here's the fascinating point. It's understanding that depending on the way the words are integrated inside of you and your ability to understand what somebody is trying to give you with vocabulary. Right? Right? Because you could be listening to the president talk. You can be listening to Fauci talk. And you can pay attention to the words that they're using. And you'll be able to see this motherfucker is trying to stir shit up.
Yeah.
For example.
Or for the current president, you're like, this guy is not making any sense at all.
Yeah. He's like trying to read the script,
Yeah.
but he thinks he still got it. So he goes off script and
freestyle, you know.
freestyle.
Maybe that's what they mean by freestyle. So, right now, with all this being said, right? How can we use this to practically improve our lives, the lives of our community, right? Have our clubhouse be flourishing, get more people on the self-perfected calls, right? Like actually take this whole thing to the next level. Because 2022, you're about to see us get even more involved politically, right? You're going to see even more of the businesses like really, really be crushing it. And then families, a lot of families starting. It's like it really it's the 5 points, right? Which we'll get into in a minute of what that is. But I wanted to give this one other thing that I have found just a gargantuan amount of benefit.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. He's programming me. Fuck, dude. Okay. I'm ready.
Okay. Just making sure you're ready. That you're not in shock mode.
Oh yeah, dude. You're right. My teachability just hit the floor.
Yeah, bro.
1 second.
And that's why you'll always be a loser. Oh,
1
good
second.
job. Hey, okay, nice. You did it.
For those of you who aren't watching, I'm tapping.
Bro,
on the
you're not doing
on
the
the
right
karate
sequence.
chopper.
Roll your
Oh,
eyes
fuck.
around in a circle.
1, 2, 3, 4. Happy birthday to Mitchell. Fuck. I feel better. Okay, I'm teachable.
Okay. Good job.
Wow, that really works. My God, we should start. We should become tapping technicians.
Bro, I heard emotion code was what I needed to do.
Yeah. Let's just leave everything we're doing and just try to like not take responsibility.
Bro,
Because
I
that's
just
what
want the
tapping
easy way
is.
out. Because
That's what tapping is.
Yeah, dude. Or emotion
like-
code, right? It makes me feel
Yeah.
better. So therefore, I think it's improving my life. When in reality, I'm not taking more responsibility or building a business or creating a real partnership.
Right. Like here, let me say one thing before you talk about your gargantuan expose. If you are emotional about something and you're just trying to feel better about it, you're missing a really amazing opportunity to specify what exactly is causing that problem, that conflict inside of you, and to transcend your programming, to walk yourself one step closer to life, one step away from ego. You're missing like a very valuable opportunity. So don't just try to feel better ever. The specificity of TechnoTutor and DIP Lite / writing, because the purpose of DIP Lite is to make you an effective writer. The specificity of it is you feel better when you achieve the result of transcending the point, where you don't recreate it again next week and the week after that. And if you're trying to shortcut that and you're just trying to feel better, if you're just trying to get the artificiality of the result, it's like what we were talking about yesterday, Mitch. It's like eating a 3D apple instead of a real apple.
Mm-hmm.
It might be faster to just 3D print an apple rather than growing an apple tree that takes time to grow. But one, you don't have to change or develop any discipline in the process of just 3D printing an apple. But two, you don't get the nutrients of an authentic apple. So my point is, the benefit of having emotion come up inside of you is to look at yourself and take that time to be like, okay, what is happening inside of me? What is creating that? Where am I limiting myself? Where am I not taking responsibility? Rather than let me tap on it and never investigate where did this come from and take responsibility for even creating this energy in the first place. Because Bernard makes this point. He's like, hold on. You're saying you're going to use your feelings as some kind of indicator of what you should follow and blah, blah, blah. You should actually be freaking the fuck out at the fact that you cannot even decide to think a thought or have an emotion. And that shit is moving inside of you without your consent, without your will.
Yeah.
You should be like, holy fuck, something is inside of me. Like,
Right.
holy shit. Right.
Then he says, look up the definition of schizophrenia.
Yeah. That was a little red pill for me too.
I love that audio.
Paranoia.
God, death, words, conflict, and
Conflict
time.
and
Something
time.
like that. Just search
Exactly.
God, death, and time. Bernard Pullman.
Yeah.
Wow. That man knows how to talk.
Yeah. Okay, go for it. Against
So,
you. Realize it.
well, here, this is kind of
I'm laughing
got 2
too, dude.
points. 1 point.
Infectious.
1
Dude,
point.
your laugh is like Omicron. It's highly infectious and contagious. Oh shit, dude. Come on, give me that one, Mitchie.
Ding ding. 2 points for Asif.
Thank you. I'm
One,
becoming
because it
a
was accurate. Two, because it made me feel good now, and feelings feel good.
now you have a higher vibration, man.
Bro,
Wow.
I need
I'm
to
giving
understand
some-
why I got a good feeling from that.
No, you don't have to. Just be powerless to me. I'll keep giving you compliments. You'll keep feeling good.
Yes,
And then you'll
okay,
want to be on
more.
then you'll want to be on a ship with me.
Bro,
Oh,
imagine
shit,
how high
man.
vibration our ship is going to be at every single port that we roll up to. They're going to love us. Then they're going to be like,
Oh my god.
hey, you guys don't even need your vaccination records. You
Uh.
know, it's fine. Just come into our country. We welcome you with loving arms. You know,
And dude, that's how we're gonna change the planet.
bro.
I'm literally just gonna compliment Mitchell over and over. We're gonna be on a boat together, not a ship. We're gonna be me and you are gonna be on a boat. I'm gonna compliment you to raise your vibration, and then we'll pull up to the ports, and you're just gonna stand there.
They're going to welcome me. They're going to be like, wow.
Dude, you're vibrating like crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Okay. I
So-
think I'm ready now.
Okay. Well, there's another thing that I'm gonna share, but it's like a
Oh, shit.
major spell. It's like almost so major of a spell. I think we might lose some people. So I don't know if I want to share it.
We might lose some people.
But it
like
was-
people are gonna die, or people are gonna quit the podcast, or like
No,
what?
people are just gonna have that glaze over thing where they can't comprehend, and they're like, so this will be
Oh,
a
yeah,
test
yeah.
for me of how good of a spell deliverer I am, how much of
Yeah,
a
spell it. You
wizard
have to,
that I am.
yeah.
Through my
How well
talking.
can you spell it?
But
How well can you
first,
spell?
right? This is a super amazing thing that I discovered recently. We've morphed it. We wordsmithed it. It's called Hyper Word
shit.
Web. Hyper Word Web. Okay. Take notes. Okay. And it's a way, specifically it's of using TechnoTutor. If you don't have TechnoTutor, fucking get TechnoTutor and then use it. And then here's how you can use it in a way that I have seen amazing transformation from.
Was
Like
that
the
enormous
best.
and amazing at the same time?
What did I say?
Amazing. It sounded like you said amazing. Like
It is
enormous
amazing.
with it.
It's amazing.
Wow.
So-
enormously amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
Okay, hyper word web. Okay, word web is when you take a word and then you write out all the associated words. So let's say the word is Omicron because you're scared of a virus. No, the word's virus. Okay, so then you got Omicron, you got Delta, you got Alpha, you got whatever. Then you got mask, Fauci, Savior, Bill Gates, right? You have all your associated words, right? And then you take that. Because if you just have a word web, sure, you might realize what's in your mind, but that's not going to change anything. So now we have to then put it through your TechnoTutor so you can physically integrate those words and understand them. So you stop reacting to them. You just see it for what it is. And then here's the kicker. Here's what makes it hyper. Are you ready for what makes it hyper?
Our shed buddy.
Okay. This is what you do. Then you open a thesaurus. And then you take all the associated words with all the ones that are really charged for you. And you put that all also in the list. And
Oh,
I'm not
shit.
recommending you do this with every word because it's not practical. But for the really, really big words, such as anything that's on the tree of life and the tree of evil, if you don't know what that is, you got to talk to one of us one-on-one and come to a clubhouse. For example, let's say the word fear or the word anger, right? And you do that. So you take all your associations plus all the collective associations, because there's words like anger, for example, right? There's a word like irk or vex, right? And then you have vexed, and then you have irked, right? And you got all these words, right? Enraged, and you're like, wow. And then as you're using your TechnoTutor on it, it's like all this deep-seated stuff, at least for me and for the 12 other people that I've talked to that have done this, it's like
The
major.
next level.
Yeah, like I had so much stuff in my life change right after I did it. I did a huge one on like money and my relationship to money. And it was like a project in my accounting and my bookkeeping that has taken literally 2.5 years to get completely sorted out. Like it was down to the nitty gritty detail that just like floodgates open, like the perfect outcome happened, like
Sold.
perfection. And it was
Sold.
amazing. Yeah. This part of the episode brought to you by QuickBooks. So that was like really profound, right? But it makes sense because it's like all this vocabulary that has been stored in me from a young age, going back, 3 to 7 generations, whatever it technically is. It's like I've had all those words exposed to me at some point in time, and it's become this web within me and it's like chaotic. So then once I did it with the Techno Tutor, it was like that all that energy, the chaos got released, and it felt as though I had a computer that was really slow. And then I
Mhm.
did that really fancy like update where it like removes the viruses, it defrags it, it cleans up the old files, it deletes a bunch of stuff, it optimizes it, all the words, right? I don't even have the full vocabulary of how to clean a computer, but that's
That was
what
good,
it
dude.
did to my body and brain and mind and everything. And I was just like so clear. It was like, oh wow, how did I not see this? How did I not see this? How did I not see this? Like Ali, one of the newer guys who just got a Techno Tutor, in his first week, he like trades gold and futures and forex. I don't even know what the guy trades, but he
Right.
said in the first week he saw something that he's like, I should have seen this the whole time. I didn't, and thus it was his most profitable week. So
Yeah.
that's again how this stuff all relates. Is it's literally all vocabulary. It's everything you can see, comprehend, process, spell. And then when you can update that with these important words that are part of our lives, such as money, fear, sex, relationships, anger, goodness, badness, it's like that just like you shed a lot of unnecessary stuff. And then you can see the next level. You still got to go act and go do the next level, but it's like it opens it up in a way that literally is not possible if you didn't do that process. So hyper word webs.
That is awesome. I also second that. I've already heard like really fucking awesome stories of people applying what Mitchell just said.
Yeah.
And experiencing like physical releases.
Yeah, like what therapy can't do. Like one uh-oh, as if he's froze. I hope I'm not froze. One of us is frozen. We don't know how to cross-reference it.
Oh shit, Rudy.
Okay. One of us froze. We're
Okay,
here.
now we're back.
Here
Oh
with
my
a capital
God.
H.
They tried
Let's
to
go.
take it. They tried to take us out.
Yeah.
Can't let 'em.
So shout out to actually the person who inspired me with a lot of this. Well, first it was the word webs, which is, I don't know, Katie or someone taught me that like years ago. But then making it the hyper word web, that was Chantel, because she explained
Chantal?
to me with how anger, she did one on anger and like had the most
This
awesome
was in
release.
Texas.
Yeah, in Texas. And then I remember when she said it, she's like, it was like 4 or 5 days after, because it took time.
Mhm.
4 or 5 days after, she's like, I felt unstoppable.
Yeah.
Which is very cool.
And
right?
her expression like really changed.
Yeah, because it's not just a feeling. It's not just like, oh, well, I just feel unstoppable today. It's like, no, it's actually like in the way she said it, you could just tell. She's like, no, I actually like feel unstoppable. Like I
That's a
know.
result. The feeling is a result of actually physically changing something where
Yeah.
you don't have the same limitations that you did before. And
Yeah.
then the result of it is you feel that way.
Exactly. Or like the whole bullshit thing with affirmations of like, I need to state it in the present tense. I need to state it in the future tense. It's like, no, you just need to go build your vocabulary so you can say with certainty, I am a millionaire. I will be a millionaire. And then it doesn't matter the tense you say it. It's like, I know what I'm fucking doing.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
period. Right. That's like, that's real, understanding.
Like to clarify what Mitchell is saying is like, I know this podcast will come to an end. It's just, I'm going to make it so. Yeah, no. Mitch did a single teardrop falling out from his eye because I feel the same way. But I know this is going to be the case.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I put it in present tense. If I'm doing the things that will result in that, that's how it's going to go. So if you don't see yourself becoming a millionaire, a billionaire, changing the system, getting into politics, getting into a great relationship, being a great father, being a great mother, etc., as fact, because you're just going to create it, you're going to make it so. It's irrelevant what tense you put it in. It's also irrelevant if you if you say I want or I need. That's also irrelevant. If the point of saying I need to become blah 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 is to stimulate you to understand why you need to do it. That's the only value of it. Just because you say I need instead of I want is not going to change anything. It's actually about educating yourself to do it, to be clear on the step-by-step about how to get there too. Okay, Mitch, you had some other spells that you wanted to slap us with. Do you remember?
Bro, how could I forget?
Yeah, you have a superior memory. You don't have a trained memory, you have a superior one.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Where do I?
Oh,
see?
okay. Dude, where's Teddy? Close his ears for this.
He's in the other.
Close Teddy's ears.
He's laying on the bed right now.
Good. Make sure he's safe from these spells. I don't know if dogs can handle that. It hasn't been tested on dogs yet.
Yeah, we ain't like Fauci. He's
Hey, anybody listening, if your animals are listening, comment in the chat.
the
My
name of
dog
your
is-
animal
Yeah.
and what type of
then,
animal it is.
yes, and then move them away from the speakers. Move them away from your headphones because they can hear shit that you can't hear. So I don't know if they'll be able to handle the vibrations. Hasn't been tested yet. Not tested. Not approved. Not PETA approved.
This episode is not brought to you by PETA.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll preface it with this. I'm gonna share for everyone why it helps to write and to use TechnoTutor every single day. No days off. Not even Christmas.
Close me, Mitch.
Okay.
Close me, dude.
So that's why I'm sharing this. I'm going to share a little glimpse into what my writing process looks like after 2 years and some months of doing this. I use TechnoTutor every single day. I missed 2 days ever. Writing, I've missed a little bit more, but in actuality, I'd say at least 90% of the days I'm doing some form of writing. By writing, I specifically mean the DIP format, which is this writing the self-forgiveness, followed by the realization statements, followed by the commitment statements. And I just have a document on my computer that I just open up, and then I just go to the next. And every day I'm just adding new stuff to it. And I will also keep like big memories or words that I know I'm working on that I'm still like not fully clear on. I'll put them in. So that's my process. And I'll just explain, like, I'll just explain what happened, and then you can do with it what you will.
Give it to us, dude.
So I have noticed from a young age that the word worry has been imprinted into me. And based on in my own mind and my own life, I'm just like worrying about shit. Well, I was worrying about shit. I realized, like Kevin Trudeau says, worrying is negative goal setting. I know worrying is a waste of time. It doesn't make sense. But nonetheless, it was like this point that was still very deep in me. And it was fascinating. A little while ago, I was watching a video. There was like footage of the day I was born. And
Wow.
yeah. And I was watching it. I was like, this is crazy. That's me as a baby. And they're like people holding me and stuff, like visiting my mom and my dad.
Wow.
And so I was watching this, and I noticed there was two different types of people that visited me. One so fascinating. My great grandmother, she was holding me on the first day of my life. And so she's talking about a sale that's going on at Sears, which is like a department store here. So literally, I'm already getting programmed with like, you can save money at this place to consume products. She's holding me, right? So that was interesting. And then the other is just realizing who is in the room. And I know these people have struggled with crippling levels of anxiety and worry throughout their entire life. Because it's like my mom. So when I was in the womb, she was like worrying about stuff, right? Because she didn't know any better. And then my grandma, right, who was also worrying about stuff because she grew up with an alcoholic father through the Great Depression. And so it goes back generations of this general worry of, because like, imagine you're literally like on a farm and it's the Great Depression. And now there's like the certain like items can't come to town anymore, right? It's just a different mentality of like needing to like save, hoard your food. Yeah. Self-sustaining. Like it's just a very different mentality because back then, if you grew up on a farm in rural Minnesota, you really didn't have a say over what happens in the economy, just straight up. And so there was always this kind of fear of what's going to happen.
Can you be more specific? Because if you grew up in the city and had worked at McDonald's, you don't have a say of what happens.
Yeah. It's like my ancestors were not bankers on Wall Street or politicians. Right. Okay. It's like where they were actually able to be in the room and somewhat negotiate financial policy. So it's like they're very removed from where the key decisions are being made. And so within themselves, their reaction to that was fear of what if there's a crash? What if we run out of food? Just general fear and worry. So this goes back generations. So then that gets passed on to my grandma, gets passed on to my mom, which obviously got passed on to me because I'm in the womb and then I'm born. So that has been the part of me my entire life. I remember as a child, my grandma just calling me just because she was concerned about me. She's like, "Oh, what are you doing today? Is everything okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine." She's like, "Okay."
Right. It's
She's
funny.
like,
It's funny. I would always that was one of the questions that my cousins or aunties and uncles would always ask. Or my mom, she'd be like, "How's everything doing? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "That's a weird fucking question. Like, what do you think
yeah,
is happening?" She's, I
yeah,
just want to make sure that you're okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And
it's good.
so for everyone listening, like what is that for you? Because we all had
Mm.
that thing in childhood that was kind of the theme of like how we would interact with people that were the authority to us. I'm saying authority in air quotes because we saw them as the authority. They were to us as a kid,
Mhm.
right? We didn't understand the world, so they're explaining stuff to us. But
Mhm.
everything was imprinted with this energy of worry, concern, fear for me, right? You probably had
Mhm.
something similar or whatever, but just look at that, everyone for yourself. So I've been noticing now as I'm taking more responsibility, building the business, we have a homestead, I'm just looking at the world, politics, the whole current events, everything. And I'm just like, there's still this little seed of like worry. Like, what if the grid goes down and we can't heat our home and then like it doesn't come back up? I'm just like worrying about stuff. And
Right.
so I sat down one day, this was last week, and I opened up my document that I do my writing on. I was like, okay, let me get to the fucking bottom of this thing. Like, this is unacceptable, right? We're having kids. Like, I cannot, I, it's unacceptable to not be clear on this word worry and to waste any of my energy on worry. So I looked up, so I just started writing, right? I'm just like ranting, blah, blah, blah. Like, I remember this, okay, this. And I start doing the self-forgiveness. And then after I did a couple lines of self-forgiveness, I realized I was like, I'm not even clear on where worry comes from, the word. So I go on Wikipedia, right? And I look at the origin of the word worry. So for anyone listening, right? So you can apply this to yourself. For the big words in your life that you react to, go on Wiktionary or an etymology or etymological dictionary, and it's etymology, etymology. So you can understand where the word comes from. Right? That's in itself so insightful. Obviously, you would use TechnoTutor to integrate those words. So I learned the word worry comes from this Proto-Indo-European, which is like the OG of Greek and Latin, Proto-Indo-European werg, W-E-R-G, which means to squeeze or to bind or to constrict.
Word.
Werg, yeah. And so that became very insightful because I was like, why would worry mean squeeze and bind? Like that didn't make sense to me, right? So I'm just writing it out again, right? More self-forgiveness of like not, I'm basically forgiving myself for not accepting and allowing myself to understand what worry really means and how I can redefine it in the best way, like at a
Mhm.
unconscious automatic level. So I'm looking at this word and I was like, okay, makes sense how worry, it's like it's like your ego, your mind is literally squeezing the life force out of you, going like, and like trying to squeeze the environment of like, I'm trying to control, right? Like, it's just, you're literally trying to like basically constrict everything in your reality just so you can survive, which is really what the ego is doing to me. It's literally like fucking
Mhm.
like sucking up my life just so I can participate in this feeling, which isn't even actually effectively helping me. Like no amount of worrying is going to help me, actually create a proper plan to prevent shit from happening. Because that's the real goal, is principle of prevention. Prevent the shit from hitting the fan, or be so prepared that it doesn't matter if it hits the fan.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at that, right? But here's a super spell. You ready for the super spell?
Shit.
Ready or not, here it comes. So I'm looking at word, and I was like, okay, how? And it's like constricting. So I was like, well, what would be the opposite of that? So I was like, well, what if I just did it in reverse? And I was like, what is werg in reverse? WERG, GREW.
Bro, what the?
Oh, so what if I just, instead of going to worry, I could just go into grew or grow? So, it's like, well, in a sense, that's what I need to do. It's like tree of life, right? You can constrict it as much as you want, but if it's truly life and it's truly growing, it's going to grow through the constriction.
Right.
And within
That's
myself, it
fascinating.
was like I just like let go of worry, and then I just wrote in, right? So okay, so this is now the best way to look at it, right? And if I'm ever worrying, right, it's like I realize worrying is ineffective, and I commit myself to anytime there's any sense of worry or whatever, to just remind myself, oh, grow, I'm growing, kind of like a tree,
Yeah.
like it's there, it's not gonna just disappear. But then it's like every day and every moment, every breath, I can just focus a little bit more on grow, grow, grow. So now
That
it's
is
like
fascinating.
literally no point in worrying. I just need to keep focusing on growing. So
It literally it literally looks like the word
mhm.
warg. It literally looks like they just took the word grow and reversed it.
Yeah,
Like literally.
yeah,
Because that's such a specific combination of letters. You know?
yeah. And then I mean, you look at that like the whole resonant imprint thing in reality, how like reality is actually sound, right? You have to know the definition of sound to understand that, right? Like sound meaning sound, and also meaning it's like complete.
Yeah.
And so there's these different words that are basically holding reality in place. So that would make sense, right? Or like live in evil. It's like
Right.
it's just the
Yeah.
reverse of itself.
Uh-huh.
But so again, so now to make sense of all that, it's like if I did not make the time to one, use TechnoTutor every single day, two, have a writing practice where I trust myself and I actually am getting stuff out of it, I would not have seen that. And so that's the point here. Because that was in a span of like literally 9 minutes. I had that whole realization. And every time I write, it's not that profound, but it can be. And now what that means though is that I have become the authority of that word. Like I am the author. I literally authored it on the paper. So I'm the authority. And that's why now within myself, it's like I don't need to think and be like, oh, wait, worry. Wait, no, grow. Yeah, grow. It's like, no, I just did the writing, and specifically I put it in my TechnoTutor. Like if I worry, then I remember grow. Right. And I'm just like putting phrases like that into my TT until now it's like it's literally just automated. So now the neural pathways are growing that way instead of, being constricted by the ego. So that was a spell for the day.
Man, and that's the whole, well, if you guys haven't heard it yet, problem, solution, reward. It's like you're programming yourself for, okay, this is a problem that's been going on for a long time. And rather than go problem, reaction, solution, that's the old system, right? Problem, reaction. Here's the solution.
Problem, Japanese
Based off
attack
the
Pearl
reaction.
Harbor. Reaction, we must get ready for war. Solution, go to war.
Right. This is crazy, right? And the solution that comes after a reaction is generally not a solution.
It's always
problem.
not a solution, not a true solution.
It's a solution for the reaction.
Yeah, right.
You see? And so, I mean, guys, we should cut that part of the podcast out and put it behind a fucking paywall.
Seriously.
From the hyper word webs to now. My point is extremely valuable. It's extremely valuable because just consider this. Throughout the beginning of our life, everything was a buzzword to us, right? Because none of our vocabulary was self-directed, but then people act like their ideas are their own. It's like everything that was programmed into you, you did not determine it. And by the time you could use your self-will to determine things, you're already programmed. That's why you have different impulses inside of you speaking to you, dictating to you, right? It's like your internal dictionary that is speaking to you. It's like a little dictator inside of you, right?
Mini Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're worried all the time, and then then you're reacting to the fact that like, oh fuck, then you try to control everything. Right?
Yeah.
That's China.
Seriously.
Let's go China, North Korea.
And so speaking of China and all that, right? And like the state of the world and everything, we're now approaching the new year. Like there's not time to fuck around anymore. We say this often, but there's really not time to fuck around. Like we all really got to look at this for real and take a moment today, right after the podcast or right now, you can pause it and look at what am I actually committed to in 2022, and what have I been committed to, and then just commit now. Don't wait till fucking New Year. Like just make the commitment now and take the small necessary steps to do it. But it's not enough to just do this shit alone. It's really not. Like even just this past weekend, me, some of the local distributors, we went to like a comedy event and everything. I just see how like enticing that can be, like that lifestyle, kind of like the carefree, all this, that thing, right? It's like, it's so seductive. That's why you need the community. Don't want a community, need the community, because when you have that and you have it consistent, like now every other Thursday, I have my clubhouse and it's focused on building the business. Seth has his on Mondays. So then, 4 or 5 days later, whatever, that's then Seth's, and it's on sales and negotiation. And then that following Saturday, so then 6 days after that, or 5 days, whatever, it's then Pedro's. And he runs the clubhouse. That's like more of a general mindset thing on Saturday afternoons. So in that community, right, that's enough so that all the right people that are like, yo, I need this community, right? Instead of going out with my friends to the bar or whatever, they're like coming to our thing. And it is amazing. But now here's my point. That needs to happen in every city. Like that needs to happen in every city where there's some sort of event happening basically every night where you can have this type of conversation. Because guess what they're doing right now in fucking China and Russia and Iran and all these other places? They are grooming their young men to be savages. By savages, I mean like ruthless, like full masculinity, right? Ready for anything in the future. And here in America, guess what they're programming us with? Toxic masculinity. Oh, it's okay. Like care about everyone's feelings, all that shit. It's like, we have to really be fucking honest about where the world's headed. Like brutally honest. And it is fucking bad right now. Like we are automated to go towards a world where America is not a superpower anymore. Like that is the risk that we're all facing right now. But that's what Asif, myself, Cameron, Drake, the other guys on the podcast, and the people in the self-perfected community, we are focused on is ensuring that America stays as a superpower, because we value individual freedom. We value medical freedom. And we're not going to fucking fall to some globalist bullshit agenda. And we can make it best for all, right? We can scale what we have here as a blueprint, and then it can be adopted in other cultures in a way that's fitting to them. But the fundamental part that we're looking at is, one, looking at on an individual level and as a collective, looking at our past, letting go of the bullshit that's not necessary. Two, learning how to live in the present moment, maximize what's here. And then three is actually create the best possible future. And that's what Self-Perfected is about. That's what we're here to do. And we're modeling it in each of our cities with our communities, and then collectively as a nation. And then that can scale out into the world. And we have Self-Perfected Germany. We have Self-Perfected the Netherlands. We have people in Denmark. I mean, we have people all over. But the importance of this better fucking go up 100-fold in your mind. Because every single day, Fauci, Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, all these people are moving full speed fucking ahead with their plan, full speed. And you are an irrelevant pawn to them. So why not equalize ourselves with them in terms of our understanding of the world, right? Build our network, build our systems, make a fuckload of money. So even if you're not going to be the one who runs for political office, or you're not going to be, well, there's going to be thousands of us doing it. But if you're not going to be the one on the front lines doing it, you can at least own the media companies, so you can make sure there's fair press. You can at least donate to the political campaigns, right? You can buy an event center, so we can have event centers where no one needs to wear a mask and no one needs the vaccine proof to get in there. Or you can buy airline, so we don't need to give a fuck about the vaccination status, because it literally doesn't do shit. I met so many people over the past 3 weeks. They're like, I'm fully vaccinated, got my booster. Oh, I still got COVID. And they're under the spell of, oh, well, it would have been worse if I didn't have my vaccine. It's like, you don't fucking know that. You just got sold.
Have you heard of Tyler Fisher?
No.
Tyler Fisher, I'll send you this video after. It's hilarious. You've probably seen the video.
Protected because the vaccine is safe and effective. So if
But he's pretending to be like a sassy, like like, you unvaxxers are so selfish. He's like, because you guys are so selfish because I got the vaccine, so it's safe and effective, so I'm protected. So you have to wear a mask to not. No, I'm not, no, I'm protected, but you're dangerous because you're not vaccinated, and I'm good, and you're gonna. And you're racist. It's like so perfect because it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Well, it's just the perfect setup, right? That is like so well orchestrated, where then it's like, well, you're being selfish if you don't have the vaccine, and you're going to overrun our hospitals, which they can totally cook the numbers on all that too. So it's just this
literally,
perfect thing.
what's his face? Paul Joseph Watson. He's pulled it
Yeah.
up for the last like 8 years. Every single time at this time of year, the last, couple of months, there's articles from every year about how the hospitals are overrun
Mhm.
and just like inundated
Mhm.
every single year. But now it's all this particular focus. It's because of these buzzwords.
Mhm.
It's because all of our attention is being attracted to these very scary, life-threatening points. It's a survival point, right? Because it's interesting because they didn't do this until we were all at a certain point within us, and until the systems were in place of mass influence. You couldn't do this without Facebook.
Right.
You couldn't do this without Twitter,
Mhm.
right? It's hard to do Black Lives Matter blackout if it wasn't on Instagram, where you're scrolling through Instagram and everyone's just posting these black squares. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Gotcha, right? The amount of influence that has. So to really bring it full circle and take it like a layer deep, right? This is where we get to like the fucking, like, if you're not already fucked up from everything Mitchell has just
This is
shared,
like, so we talk about Verbo juice. This is like Verbo concentrate. It's like the distilled essence. Verbo
like this is
essential oil.
exactly like this is the shit that you put in a dropper and you only put like one drop under your tongue, but you don't even put it under your tongue. Like you put it on the back of your hand and then you lick it, because if you put it under your tongue, it'll just be too strong, go right into your bloodstream. So just watch out, because like what I would suggest, if you didn't already consider applying the hyper word web point, I would highly, highly, highly suggest to make a note where the next time you're going to do your process, to re-listen to what Mitchell was saying, because it would be a shame if we left these gold bars, these platinum bars on this podcast, and you specifically did not put it to use, because it's actually irrelevant what everybody else does. It's you who is hearing me right now. If you don't put it to use, it's a lost point for you. So my point is, don't just go based off of, well, that was cool. Take what he's saying and apply it, because it's very visceral. It's definitely, again, something that I think we all collectively kind of learned really relatively recently, that has also greatly supported me in processing like the different. It's like you have a circle, right? And the word anger, it covers a big chunk of it, but then there's 54 other words that cover a percentage of that circle, and a different angle to that point, where once you get the full thing, it just transcends the point to a whole new level, where you get to see way more and all that. So the point is, coming back to bringing it full circle, the buzzwords. Think of the word buzzword. It creates a buzz on a macro, on a societal level. But as an individual, what's buzzing inside of you? That's what resonance is. It's resonating inside of you. What are these words that, boom, it flicks something inside of you, and then you imprint on it, right? And so what a buzzword is, it's designed to stimulate you and get a buzz going, right? And that's what marketers use, that's what advertisers use, all that stuff. The number one thing that money is dumped into is marketing and advertising, to figure out buzzwords and how you can represent buzzwords with images too. Because what's a great buzzword? Sex, for example. In the context, because Mitchell was talking about it in the context of creating new words. And there's also just the vocabulary that we have that are extremely charged, for example. Now, here's the thing to consider. Why it's so important to be doing self-forgiveness and using the tools. Imagine right now in this moment, okay, whoever is listening to this, consider this. Time doesn't really exist. The future isn't here yet. Whatever you're imagining that's going to happen that you're worrying about or anxious about in the future, it doesn't even exist. The past also doesn't exist. Like right now in this moment, your entire past, your history, it's not here. It doesn't exist. So let's stick with that for a moment. Just consider that. Your history doesn't exist. The memories that you have, they're not real anymore. The only place where they exist is symbolically as words and attached to the words inside of each individual, right? And so when you're worrying, even though that doesn't exist yet, what you're subconsciously acknowledging is I am a robot. And based off how I'm acting and behaving in the programming inside of me today, this is what it's going to create. I'm afraid of what my programming is going to create. That's what worry, that's a dimension of worry. That's an angle of worry that we participate in. Is like, oh shit, I see that, what if that person gets mad at me? I'm not going to know how to handle it. That's like one of the things we worry about, right? Facing conflict and rejection, all that stuff. My point is that information only exists inside of you. Rejection, another angle on the word buzzword, is that's a buzzword for you, right? Fear, death, survival, all that stuff. Money is an amazing one. See, like, for example, I didn't think to do that about money. I was only thinking about the hyper word web in the context of emotional stuff, right? Because I'm like, oh, cool, get all those points. But that's really, really valuable to do that. So here's the point.
Business too, and work, those words.
Exactly right. Oh my God, work. I remember when I first, not like first, but initially my first year in using Tekken Tutor, when I had no idea what it was, I could not work. Like I had so extreme resistance where I just wanted to be free all the time. And it was all this programming from my dad, like always working, and it affecting my mom, like being like, this is horrible. And then her talking shit to me about the fact that my dad's always working. I'm like, okay, got it. Don't work. Super heavy program, right?
Wow.
So here's the thing. We get told a bunch of stuff in our history books, right? And like, for example, Hitler's a great example. I'm not going to talk too much about it because we need to keep this podcast up, right? But the point is, there's a lot of documentation from top historians of Adolf Hitler that show that that a lot of the things that were taught in high school and school and all that stuff about World War II and Hitler and Germany, and it doesn't make any sense. It's actually not true. And a couple of points is like, well, who was our biggest ally? Who was our biggest ally in World War II? Who was US's biggest ally? What was the first?
UK?
No. What was the first name that came to your head?
Is it Russia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Russia's like the biggest fucking communist state. It's like, isn't it like they're our worst enemy now?
Mm-hmm.
But why did we come together? And what the fuck did Germany and Japan have in common? Like if Hitler's whole thing was like, the Aryan race, like we have to like maintain the purest race, and they partnered with Japan. So just like a couple of things to consider. There's a lot more to that point, but that is specifically designed to create a buzzword inside of you called Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole point of Hitler, like what he was standing for, was like, dude, Germany's fucked. I'm not going to participate with the central banks. I want to print a bunch of our own money and start rebuilding this country because it was fucked after World War I. But they painted him as the most evil man ever.
Well, isn't it interesting too, that idea, right? The buzzword of Hitler is like, It's like the most evil human that's ever existed. So it's this excuse for people to be like, well, I know I'm like kind of evil because like I'm not doing anything about changing the world and I'm just going along with this, but I'm not Hitler. Come on.
Right.
So it's this ultimate excuse card too that people have. It's like you don't
Right.
know, you didn't know Hitler. Like you haven't. That whole phrase like history is written by the victors. We don't know,
Yeah.
right? And maybe it's 99.9% accurate. Maybe it's 50% accurate. Who knows?
But there's
But
like historians.
question
There
it.
is a particular historian who goes around, like who does history the right way, where you go and actually interview. You don't. This is how history is typically done. It's like academia, where somebody wrote a paper, and then you imagine you read a history book, and then you made a book based off the history book.
Right.
That's how history is being done. It's a big fucking problem. That's how all of academia, if you go to university and you have to write a thesis or a paper, the only information that's accepted is information from other sources that are already written papers that are accredited by the same fucking institution
Mhm.
that you're writing for. It doesn't make any sense because you're staying within your bubble. The point is, this historian had went back. I don't remember his name, but we can get it for you afterwards if you message me directly. But only no, that's a waste of time. Only distributors. But so what he did is he went back and he interviewed individuals who actually knew Hitler, who spent time with them, who were alive at that time, and they're all like, "Oh yeah, he was a cool guy. Like he really stood for like supporting us and things like that." And some Jewish people as well, who were in Germany at that time, doing the interviews. It was like, "Oh yeah, he was a normal dude. Like he's pretty cool. He's very charismatic. Whatever." The point is, a lot of what we're told is not the case. There was none of them were like, "Oh yeah, he fucking hated Jews." That wasn't in it at all. Like there was so that historian, he went on tour. He went to like, I think it was like Denmark or something like that, and he was speaking on stage because he would hold talks, and he was saying, there's actually no proof, like physical evidence, that Hitler had any idea of the concentration camps, that Hitler had any knowledge or gave any directive to create concentration camps. And Denmark locked him up and put him in jail, like solitary confinement for like 3 or 4 years or something of that caliber, because he was a Holocaust denier. He didn't even deny it. He's just saying, hey, there's no proof for it. He's like, just imagine just being a historian and being like, hey, these are the facts. They're like, oh, you're a Holocaust denier, like, right? So, but the point is,
buzzword, right? Holocaust denier.
Exactly, right? It's always an anti or pro, all that stuff, right? But it's already been proven in court that Anne Frank is a fraud. That book, it's been proven in court that book was a fictional book. That's fucking crazy, because I did not know about that. So here's the point. If you can create buzzwords and imprint people with history and get them to hold on to a past that doesn't even fucking exist, then you can control them, because based off the information that you put into each individual, they are going to project into the future, worry what's going to happen, XYZ. And that's how you then take that fear and wrap it up into a jab that you get into your arm and sell it to people. You take their fear and you sell it to people. What we're suggesting is you as an individual have to be walking this process every day. Because like Mitchell said, sometimes I have beautiful writings that are like, holy shit, feels like great. This is my point. I was going to, I have some stupid analogies, but anyways, I didn't want to say on the podcast, but it'll feel amazing. You'll be like, oh, wow. Like boom, that clicks for me. Other times you're just working through something and you're like, okay, cool. Got it. And you're on to the next one. But it's the consistency of removing the information so that words are no longer buzzwords. Because it's one thing to be the person who's creating the buzzwords. It's one thing to be the influencer. It's another thing to be influenced by. So the point of, for example, Mitchell reading that book, he's going to get a lot of clarity, a lot more clarity. There's value of reading of, oh, how we're influenced, how we're manipulated just by the 4 pages that you read, what you shared. I'm like, oh, this is all making sense. It makes so much sense what they're doing with coronavirus and all that stuff. Cameron was making this point. What they do with hurricanes, they name them,
Name.
right? And they're like using the alphabet and all that stuff. And now they're doing the same thing with the viruses. And I was like, okay, I get that, but like, what's the point? He's like, so they can just continuously terrorize you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, holy fuck. It's funny, right?
So what I'm realizing here, because you're like, get rid of the buzzwords, which I agree. Like, get rid of the buzz on the words, and then
Where you're being manipulated by them.
Yeah. And I would say what to then focus on, as well as, releasing that, is then also establishing what are the buzzwords that you want to buzz out into reality through your resonance.
Exactly.
Such as the word grow, right? For me, it's like, oh, I'll just resonate grow instead of worry. Cool. Simple enough. Obviously, if you don't have the tools, good fucking luck. You ain't going to do it. But when you have the tools and you can rewrite that, yes, that is great. So, and that's something too, I found to be super practical, is like at the end of each of our clubhouses, I will share something like, hey, what is like 1 to 3 words that you are taking away that you want to live? So it really forces people to distill it down to a word or a concept,
right?
Because then that it helps you stay focused.
Be very specific. Yeah, and so that's the point. Is like, just like the same way that based off everybody having specific buzzwords inside of them, that they're resonating and creating our future based off that. Exactly what Mitchell said. We're here to let go of those points. And the way you let go is by replacing, right? You can't just let go of garbage men. You have to replace them with robots. You can't just let go of, hey, right now, the way I interact with my partner is not best in this scenario. Okay, so what? You erase that point, and then what? You can't interact with your partner anymore at that moment? No, you have to replace it, or you'll just go back to the other way of doing it. If you're just like, oh, I got to stop worrying, that's not a solution. Right? That would be a solution to the reaction of like, oh no, I'm worrying. I got to stop worrying. Right? But what Mitchell's doing is problem, solution, reward, the new system. You see a problem, you focus on the solution to that problem, and then you get the benefit of that. So just like Mitchell is saying, you need to focus on, what do you want to live? What words do you want to live by? So whenever you have that inner experience of, something's not working for me, it always comes back to one thing. It is simply lack of education. There's something that you're not understanding. You're not processing this situation effectively on how to support yourself and direct other people in your environment to get the results you want out of your environment. You have to support yourself to understand more. And the way you do that is by, 1, removing the information inside of you through self-forgiveness and writing and using TechnoTutor. That's keeping you on a set course of action where you always just react the same way. And then 2, giving yourself the new vocabulary, the new instructions, the new programming, the new script to run in this scene through using writing. So the self-realizations, the commitment statements, and using TechnoTutor to support yourself to be like, okay, this mode of being, this course of action, this living would be best. And then support yourself to stick to that point until it actually changes. Right. And a lot of the times we have this point, this point, that point, this point, then we get react to this point again, the first point, because we didn't clear it properly, because we didn't actually walk the change. Don't forget about the self-corrective application. You actually have to walk your change. And for those of you who find yourself revisiting the same point, it's because you're not exercising your integrity. Your integrity is your personal directive principle. There has to come a time when you do enough process on whatever you're facing on a personal, individual basis. And then in the moment, you have to apply it. You have to choose to activate who you are as a creator, as I'm going to create a new result right now. I'm going to activate, I call it the override switch of there's my programming and there's all my emotion that wants to make me fucking yell at my partner or whatever, or go into fear or not do the thing that I was supposed to do, blah, blah. but then you have to activate the override switch. The point of the tools is to support you to do that. You still have to take the final step. And that's what Mitchell has been an expert at from the get-go is, hey, guess what? I remember he shared this with me. He's like, because he was talking to Guion about the fear point. But the only way, the final way to squeeze out the last bit of fear is you just have to go do it. So I took a great lesson from that. It's like, stop trying to get rid of all the fear. Look at it as much as you can, and then move despite that. So what does that look on a society level? We all have to do that as individuals, take more responsibility, get into a relationship, start a family, get married, have kids, get into a bigger place, buy some land, right? Take care of your body, support other people to grow. Because when Mitchell's life really took off, it was one thing for him to use the tools for himself. It was a totally other thing to start supporting other people with the tool, right?
Yeah.
So for those of you who already understand how it works, you should be focusing on how can I give, what more responsibility can I take to support other people to walk this process? Comment below if you just got vaccinated from listening to us talk, dude. If you just got
vaccinated,
the verbal vaccine right there.
Oh, nice. I said ransacked.
If you got ransacked, if you just got fucking thrashed by this podcast, dude.
Yeah.
So look,
get that verbal vaccine.
Me and Mitchell's intention with this podcast is to go deep, go hard for, quick and dirty. And here
Deep,
we are.
hard, quick, dirty. Those are my 4 buzzwords I'm living in 2022.
Exactly. I'm doing a fucking hyper word web on that shit right there. Join the group.
Yep.
Self-perfected hangout. We're gonna have one this week as well, right? A little more.
Yeah, New Year's Eve.
It'll be a cool one.
Yeah.
The last hangout that we did for the year. So the last time we had the last hangout for the year, it was fucking amazing.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite ones because you get to really see the community and like what we're building. It's awesome. So yeah. And in 2022, right? Start your clubhouse, right? If you don't know how to do that, reach out to me or Asif or Drake or Kian. And so start that if you already have it, right? Grow it, right? We're figuring out some really good ways to grow that thing. It's fun. And then when you have that responsibility every week or every 2 weeks, you got to stand up there and lead a conversation or facilitate a conversation. That is a great way to change, right? That is it's what your community fucking needs. You become literally the heartbeat of your community. You're the pulse of your community just by your directive will. And you scheduling an event, promoting it, getting some people in the room, you do it. Then you promote the next one, right? And you keep going and you keep going. And then what that turns into over 2, 4, 6, 12 months of fucking movement.
Boom. And for those of you who are like not even processing it because you feel like you're not ready yet, David Coulon Pepin, he made this awesome video in the Self Leaders Club like years ago. And maybe he got it from some kind of destiny writing or something like that. But what he was saying is perfect. He said, don't try to solve your weaknesses and then take on responsibility. The way to solve your weaknesses, and the only way, there's no other way to solve your weaknesses other than to take on the responsibility.
Yes.
You take on the responsibility and then you're forced within yourself, because we're just programmed for survival. So if you take on the responsibility, then you're going to kick into high gear and change your weaknesses if you have the tools. I wouldn't suggest that if you don't have
that. Should also be behind a paywall. Like, damn. Like, do we need to start apply the shit? Come on.
Comment in the comments below once we release the podcast if we should remove the podcast and make people pay for it.
Or comment why we should keep it free.
Yeah, exactly. Comment paywall or no paywall. Like for paywall, like for no paywall. And then comment below in order to tell us
3 comments for paywall.
Going.
Leave 4 comments for no paywall.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks, Asif. See you next year.
Thanks, Mitch.
I'm just kidding. I'll see you Friday.
All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.